We will be starting in about 5 minutes time. In the meantime, please do answer the poll question that you see up there. Definitely very interested to hear what everybody's answers are. But once again, we'll be starting in about 5 minutes time. We'll just give people a couple more minutes to get here. In the meantime, please don't forget to fill out the poll question that you see up there. Please do fill that out. As I said, we'll give people a couple more minutes to get here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this started. It seems that from what I can see here, most people don't know much about the GRE. You're just starting, but there are still a few people there who have taken a real test or a diagnostic test, but feel they need to improve it. Got a lot of people here, of course, from Canada, where we are located, a few people from all over the world. It is awesome to have you here. And it seems that most people feel that the main things that they need help with, first of all, is they just need to get started. Yeah, a lot of you selected that, just need to get started. And then a bunch of you mentioned that you need to learn good strategies and you need to find time to practice. That is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. By the way, my name is Tristan. I am going to be your instructor for this GRE info session, and I am super excited to have you guys here. Let's get this started, guys. And how you are going to get the most out of this class is basically, first of all, to leave your comfort zone. If you want to actually learn something, you need to be able to leave your comfort zone and enter what we call the learning zone, where you can actually learn things. If, guys, you are comfortable while you are trying to learn, then you're not really learning. You're just repeating things that you already know. Learning is pushing the boundaries of what you know, and so it's going to make you uncomfortable. That being said, I don't want anyone to end up in the panic zone. So, ladies and gentlemen, if any of you do end up in the panic zone at any point during today's class, please do let me know and we can go through something again, because I want to make sure I don't leave anybody behind. But let's get into it just with a sample GRE question right here. Guys, I want to know what is 1 to the power of 1 plus 2 squared plus 3 cubed. And ladies and gentlemen, I am going to start a poll here, and this will allow you to actually put in what you think the correct answer is. Just give me 1 second. It'll be this one, I believe. Yeah. All right, guys. Punch into the poll what you think the correct answer should be. I'll give you about 2 minutes. Keep those answers coming in, guys. Give it 10 more seconds. Keep them coming in. All right, let's stop it right there. Not bad. Not bad at all. It seems that most of you got this particular question right. There are a few of you that didn't quite get it, but don't worry, we will go through it. Yes, indeed, the correct answer for this is answer choice C. But what do you actually need to know in order to answer this particular question? Well, obviously, you need to know what an exponent is. You need to know that 3 cubed is 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. Okay? And you also need to know how to do that in reverse, that 32 is 2 to the power of 5. You also just need to know how to add and multiply. And guys, according to ETS, the people that make this exam, you need to know no more than what is generally taught in secondary school classes: basic arithmetic, elementary algebra, and commonly known geometry concepts. That is it. And so as long as you know these, you should be absolutely golden. 1 to the power of 1, by the way, of course, is 1. 2 squared is 4. 3 cubed is 27. Add them together, you get 32, which is 2 to the power of 5. But let's make things a little bit more challenging for you. Let's try this particular question. Again, I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and you should be using pretty much the same things that you have just used on that previous question. So let's try it again. And again, I'll give you another 2 minutes. Keep those answers coming in. Got about half of you done. I'd love to see the other half. Keep them coming in. Ten more seconds. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me end it right there. This one was a bit harder, wasn't it? It certainly was, and I can see that from the answers. The answers were a little bit more all over the place because this looks quite difficult. Now, a typical way that a lot of people will try and answer this question is what we would call the theory way. And that looks essentially like this. You actually try and calculate what these things are. 14 to the power of 4 is 38,416. 15 to the power of 5 is 759,375, and 16 to the power of 6 is 16,777,216. Now, this is not something that's impossible to do on the test on the GRE, because you do have a calculator. However, that calculator does not have an exponent function, so you're going to have to essentially go 16 times 16, then times the answer by 16, then times that answer by 16, and also keep track of how many times you've done that. So it is doable, but it's not particularly easy. And then you have to remember all of these numbers and then add them together. And if you were to do that, you'd end up with 38,416 plus 759,375 plus 16,777,216. Punch those into the calculator that they give you, and you will get 17,575,007. So you would have gotten the right answer, but it would have taken you quite a while to get all of that done. I'm assuming that's probably why none of you did that. I'm going to guess that none of you did that, because it's just not particularly feasible. Now, some of you may be aware that there is a much better way of doing this. We call this the strategy way, and it is a perfectly reasonable way of answering a question. In this particular question, you can use something called the units digit strategy. Guys, at their core, exponents are just multiplication. And the only thing that's going to affect the product of two numbers being multiplied, the only thing that's going to affect the units digit of that product are the units digits of the two things being multiplied. So if I go 123,456 and I multiply that by 234,567, I mean, unless I pull out the calculator, I have absolutely no idea what that is. But I do know that it will end in a 2, because you see, 6 times 7 is 42. 6 times 7 is 42, so the answer to that must end in a 2. We can do a similar thing when it comes to exponents here. We can do a similar thing. We know that 14 to the power of 1 is 14. So let's keep going. We can then take a look at 14 squared. Well, I don't care about the 10 here. The only thing that's going to affect the units digit of what we're multiplying, the product rather, is the units digits of what we're multiplying. So that means I'm going 14 times 14. Okay, well, that's 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So the units digit of 14 squared will be 6. And notice that if we cube that, then we're essentially going 14 squared, which ends in a 6, times 14 again. So our units digits are going to be 6 times 4, and 6 times 4 is 24. So we get a 4 again. And then the next one, we're going to end up going 4 times 4 again, so it'll end in a 6. That means 14 to the power of 4 will end in a 6. And then 15 to the power of anything will end in a 5, because 5 to the power of anything ends in a 5. Same with 16. 16 to the power of anything will end in a 6. And usually you can tell when that's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, when the square ends in exactly the same units digit. Like 5 squared is 25, 6 squared is 36. So yeah, anything ending in a 5 to any positive integer power will also end in a 5. And anything ending in a 6 to a positive integer power will end in a 6. But guys, this units digit strategy doesn't just apply to multiplication. It also applies to addition. So I can take these units digits that I've just discovered, 6, 5, and 6, and add them together. 6 plus 5 plus 6 is 17. And so the correct answer must end in a 7. There's only one answer choice that ends in a 7. Answer choice D, our correct answer. And this you can easily figure out in about 2 minutes or less, depending on how well versed you are at this particular strategy. But of course, there's always a better way. We call this the mastery way, and this is how people who get really high scores on the GRE will think, like a 162 or a 165 on the quant section. They're going to look at this and think, the answer choices here are quite far apart. You could probably easily ballpark this by doing a very rough calculation. But if I did that, I would know immediately what the correct answer is. That'd be very, very easy. But I feel like they're probably trying to trick me into doing that by giving me two answer choices that are really close together. I'm about 90% sure that it's between C and D. About 90% sure it's between C and D. And between C and D, one thing I can immediately notice is that C is an even number, whereas D is an odd number. 14 to the power of 4, well, that's an even number. 14 is an even number. An even number to any positive integer power will remain even. Same with 16 to the 6th then. Any even number to a positive integer power will remain even. And it's with odd, it's going to be any odd number to a positive integer power will remain odd. So it's going to end up being even plus odd plus even. We have rules for that. You probably learned these back in school. An even plus an odd plus an even will result in an odd number. So I'm pretty darn sure that the answer is going to be D, and I can do that in about 30 seconds. Now, ladies and gentlemen, is that a pretty safe bet to take? I'd say so. 90% sure that I know what the answer is in about 30 seconds? Yeah, I'd take that bet. I would definitely take that bet. And guys, if you are aiming for those really high scores, you should be willing to take that bet too. Now, what really separates people who are getting 150s versus those who are getting into the 160s, in particular mid to late 160s? Well, guys, you need to know that the GRE is a skills-based exam. This is not a knowledge-based exam. And so you cannot prepare for this exam in the same way that you have been preparing for, let's say, your university exams. It's not the same. With a university exam, you'd probably just pull out your textbook and memorize everything in it. Sometimes the night before, if we're very honest with ourselves, man. Sometimes we do that. But with the GRE, we can't do that. It's not about knowledge here. It's about skills. The GRE general test measures verbal reasoning, quantitative reasoning, critical thinking, and analytical writing skills that have been developed over a long period of time and are required for success in today's demanding programs. And guys, this is not us saying this. This is ETS, the people that make the GRE. It is a skills-based assessment. So guys, if you're going to master this, you've got to learn skills. And is learning skills all about just your knowledge? Ladies and gentlemen, if I read this book and I memorize everything in this book, is that going to make me as good at golf as Tiger Woods? No, clearly not. And it's a similar idea when it comes to the GRE, a very similar idea when it comes to the GRE. You've got to be able to build these skills, and you're not going to be able to build the skills unless you actually, go down to the driving range and smack a bunch of golf balls, at least for golf. When it comes to the GRE, it's about practicing. It's about actually learning the skills and then utilizing those skills. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the GRE exam format, let's quickly go through it. The first thing that you are going to see is something called the analytical writing assessment. It's an essay section. You will have 2 essay questions to write, and you will have 60 minutes to complete that. Essentially 30 minutes per essay. And it is timed per essay, by the way. So if you finish one of them early, you do not get to use that time on the second one. You will then get a verbal reasoning section and a quantitative reasoning section. Each one of them will include 20 questions. The quantitative reasoning section will give you 30 minutes to answer those 20 questions. A verbal reasoning section will only give you 35 minutes to answer those questions. So a little bit longer. You will then have a 10-minute break, and then you're going to get your second verbal reasoning section and your second quantitative reasoning section, along with an unscored section. That unscored section will essentially be another version of a verbal or a quantitative reasoning section. You're going to get essentially a third one of those. So it's either going to be 30 or 35 minutes, depending on which of the two it is. Now, if you're thinking, who cares if it's not scored and it doesn't count towards my score, then why should I bother with it? You're not going to know which section it is, because the two verbal sections, the two quant sections, and the unscored section can appear in any order. These 5 sections can appear in any order. You could get the 2 verbal sections and then 3 quant sections, and you won't know which quant section is unscored. Or it could be some sort of gigantic mix of them. Who knows what's going to happen? Okay? Do keep that in mind. So now that you know that the unscored section exists, it's probably a good idea to forget it exists. You just know that you're going to have to deal with a 5th random section, and it might be unscored, it might be scored, who knows? Treat it like it's scored. But I also want to focus in, ladies and gentlemen, on the names of these sections. Notice it's not the essay section. It's called the analytical writing assessment. Notice it's not called the English section. It's called the verbal reasoning section. Notice it's not called the math section. It's called the quantitative reasoning section. This test is testing your reasoning skills. It's in the names of the sections. They're testing your ability to reason with words in verbal reasoning and to reason with numbers in the quant section. Now, I want to focus on the verbal and the quant sections because those are the main sections. They are the main sections, and generally what people worry about the most when it comes to the GRE. So guys, our question types, let's go through these quickly. On the quantitative reasoning section, we have 2 question types. You have problem-solving questions, which you have encountered before, and quantitative comparison questions. These are unique to the GRE, so you will not have encountered these before. And you're going to get a total quantitative score between 130 and 170, with an average around 150. You then have the verbal reasoning section, and this includes 3 question types. We have sentence equivalence questions. We have text completion questions, and I'm guessing you've never seen either of these before, and reading comprehension questions. Okay? Reading comprehension, I'm pretty sure you've encountered before. Okay, almost everybody has. And this will also have a total score between 130 and 170 with an average of roughly 150. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you are going to see many people out there that add these scores together, but the GRE doesn't. When it reports your score, it reports the quantitative score and the verbal score separately. Like I said, people often add them together to express their total score, but that's not an official thing. Feel free to do it. Feel free to do it, but it's not an official thing. And if you guys don't mind, I will talk about them as if they are separate scores, because they are scored separately. And one thing you have to understand, and you can probably tell from the scores themselves, that this is not like a 1 question equals 1 point sort of thing. It's not really. It's not how this works. It is not how this works. It is a scaled score. And yeah, your score is definitely going to be based on the number of questions that you get right, but it's also going to be based on the level of difficulty of the questions you're answering. Because you need to understand, that the GRE is a computer adaptive test. Now, it's not adaptive by question, like an exam like the GMAT is. It's adaptive by section. And of course, the verbal and the quant will be split here. What happens in the verbal will not affect the quant, and what happens in the quant will not affect the verbal. But ladies and gentlemen, the first scored verbal section that you get will include 20 questions of medium level difficulty. Depending on how well you do on those 20 medium level questions, the second scored verbal section will be either harder if you do really well on those questions, or it could be easier if you do very poorly on those questions, or maybe about the same if you do okay on those questions. Now, remember, your score is not just based on the number of questions you get right. It's also based on the level of difficulty of the questions you're answering. So if you want a really high GRE score, you need to get to that hard section. You need to get to it. Now, same thing happens on the quant section. Same exact thing. You're going to start with 20 medium questions in the first scored quant section, and then if you do really well on those, you'll get 20 hard questions in the second scored quant section. Or if you do okay, 20 medium, or if you do poorly, you'll get 20 easy questions. But remember, your goal here should be to get to those hard questions if you want that very high GRE score. And that's essentially what you guys should be aiming for anyway. Now, the unscored section will be just a random one. It could be hard, it could be medium, it could be easy. Who knows? It's not going to count to your score, and how well you do on a previous section, if there is a previous section, it's not going to affect the difficulty of the unscored section. So you really just won't know anything about that unscored section. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to start us talking about the quant section. And I want to start us off with just by asking, why is GRE math difficult? What is it about GRE quant that a lot of people find excruciatingly difficult here? And you know what, guys? I am going to set up another poll for you to answer. Just give me 1 second. Let me pull it up. Nope, come on. There we go. All right. So let me give you about a minute. Please do fill this in. Let me know, why do you think, whoops, that's the wrong one. Okay. Yeah, okay. So let me know why you think GRE math is difficult. Okay. Keep them coming in. Okay, good. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing here. So quite a few of you have mentioned that you don't have a math background. Okay, fair enough. Not too many of you have mentioned it's been a while since you've done this kind of math. I'm guessing most of you are either still in your undergrad or fresh out of undergrad. Forgot formulas, questions are confusing. Okay, sure. Time pressure, just about everybody said that one, and that is so true. Quite a few of you said you're just not a quote-unquote math person, and even a few of you mentioned that even if you know all the theory, it's not good enough. Yeah, that's true. That is very, very true, guys. As I've mentioned before, this is testing our skills. So it's not good enough just to know exactly what is going on here. It's not good enough to know essentially all of your basic theory. That's not why we're doing. That's not what's going to happen here. You have to be able to utilize these skills. You have to be able to utilize these skills. And if you can't, well, you're going to end up doing pretty poorly, unfortunately. You are going to end up doing pretty poorly, unfortunately. Hold on 1 second. I'm having a little bit of an issue with my slide deck. Let me, you know what? I am going to stop sharing, and I am going to basically stop that. Give me 1 second. And I'll bring my slides back up. Just bear with me for 1 second here. Okay, yeah, here we go. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, like I said, why is GRE math hard? You just got to be able to use the quantitative skills. It's not about being a human calculator. We have a calculator. You have to be able to answer questions that are testing your understanding of it. And I cannot think of a better example than something like this. This is a wonderful example. What could be the remainder of 7 to the power of x over 5? Select all that apply. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I will throw up another poll here and you guys can answer it. Let me just bring it up. Should be this one. Yep. Okay, now in this case, we can select multiple answers here. So please make sure that you select all the answers that apply in this particular category. Okay, select all answers that apply. Give it another minute. Keep those answers coming in. I'll give you 10 more seconds. You can only get it wrong if you don't try. Okay. Remember, guys, if you stay inside your comfort zone, you're not learning. So I did notice that quite a few of you didn't answer that. That's okay. That's okay. But give it a go. Give it a go. See what you can get out of this. See what you can get. This might look really intimidating. But guys, all you need to understand is exponents, division, and remainders. So if we're to do this the theory way of answering this, then probably the simplest quote-unquote theory way of answering the question would be to start finding your powers of 7. I mean, 7 to the 1 is probably the easiest one, 7. And if I go 7 divided by 5, well, I can get 1 5 into 7, and I've got 2 left over. So I have a remainder of 2. So immediately we know that C is going to be one of the right answers. C is going to be one of the right answers. And I can just go 1 up again. 7 squared, we're still in easy territory. 7 squared is 49, and if I go 49 divided by 5, that will give me 9 remainder 4. I can fit 9 5s. 9 times 5 is 45. And of course, I will have a remainder of 4. So that means E is also going to be a potential answer. This is where it starts to get tricky. And again, you have a calculator, so you can keep doing this if you really want to, but it's not going to be fast, and there's still easy mistakes to make. You could then times 49 by 7 again and get 7 cubed. 7 cubed is 343. 343 divided by 5 is going to be 68 remainder 3. Okay, 68 remainder 3. And since you have a remainder of 3, that brings D in as a correct answer. And again, you can just keep going. 7 to the power of 4 is 2,401. Big number. 2,401 divided by 5 is 480, remainder 1. Remainder 1 means that B is going to be a correct answer. And guys, at this point, a lot of people are going to get tired. They may have gotten tired before this point. you'd stop here and just go, maybe I'll just go with this. And it's not a terrible idea, but this is like a best case scenario that I'm giving you here, okay? If you're trying to do it this way, this is the best case scenario. You got tired, you stopped here, it still took you a long time to get here. But of course, there is a strategy way, and we can still use the same strategy that we learned earlier here with this units digit strategy. In this case, I've got powers of 7. So 7 to the power of 1 is 7, and that will give us a remainder of 2. 7 squared is, of course, 49, and that will give us a remainder of 4. And again, all you need to know is the units digit. Because we're dividing by 5, guys, multiples of 5 always end in a 0 or a 5. You just need to figure out how much larger you are than the nearest 0 or 5, or the nearest 0 or 5 that is lower than that number. So for example, with a units digit of 9, that is 4 more than 5. With a units digit of 7, that is 2 more than 5. 7 cubed, well, I just take 7 squared, which ends in a 9, and times that by 7. 9 times 7 is 63, so 7 cubed will end in a 3. 3 is 3 more than 0, which will be the largest multiple of 5 lower than it. And so 3 will work. And of course, you can just keep going, find out all of the possible units digits that you have. End in a 3, times that by 7, you end in a 1. And if you go even higher, go 7 to the 5, you're now going 1 times 7, and you get 7 again. Which means next time I'll go 7 times 7, and it'll be 9. And it'll be 9 times 7, 3. 3 times 7, it's a pattern, guys. It's a pattern. And that means you can pretty much just stop right here. These are the potential remainders. B, C, D, and E. A remainder of 2, 4, 3, and 1. So B, C, D, and E are the correct answers. And you could do this in less than 2 minutes. You can easily do this in less than 2 minutes. Oops. Sorry, guys. Once again, I am having a little bit of a difficulty with my slideshow. Give me 1 quick second. 1 quick second. Okay. All right. There we go. All right. It's working again. Everyone can still see my slide? Yes, they can. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So mastery way. We need a mastery way as well. Of course we do. So guys, first thing that you should think about if you want to do this the proper way, like the way that a 165 scorer would think. What could be the remainder when you're dividing by 5? Well, guys, you could have a remainder of 0 if the whole thing is divisible by 5. It could be 1 more than a multiple of 5, which would be a remainder of 1. 2 more than a multiple of 5, which would be a remainder of 2. 3 more or 4 more than a multiple of 5, which would be 3 or 4. But it can't be 5 more than a multiple of 5, because that is itself a multiple of 5. A multiple of 5 plus 5 is another multiple of 5. And furthermore, you can't even go beyond that, because then, let's say 6 more than a multiple of 5 is also 1 more than the bigger multiple of 5. So for example, if I take a number like 5 and I add 6 and then divide it by 5 again, that's not going to give me a remainder of 1. Sorry, that is going to give me a remainder of 1. That's not going to give me a remainder of 6. It's just 1 more. And so guys, the only possible remainders you can get are 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's true, by the way, of any remainder. It cannot be larger than the number you're dividing by, nor can it be equal to. Only 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. That immediately eliminates F and G. Let's just get rid of those. But we can do better. Is 7 to the power of x ever going to be a multiple of 5? Remember, guys, an exponent is just the base multiplied by itself. So I'm constantly multiplying by 7. I am constantly multiplying by 7. So did I ever multiply by 5? No. The result will never be a multiple of 5. And that gets rid of answer choice A. Everything else should be possible. Everything else should be possible. So the answers are B, C, D, and E. You can do that in 30 seconds. It's all about understanding what's going on. It's not about just brute force calculation. Sometimes you'll have to do that, but most of the time, that is not the point of this. Let's do another one. Let's do another one. This is, it's one of my favorite questions. One of my favorite questions, right? I know you guys might be getting tired already, but do remember this exam is, over 3 hours long. So you got to be able to keep up that stamina. Woo. Let's take a look at this. Look at that wonderful table. Question says, if 1/3 of the total number of marbles in the 3 bags listed in the table above are blue, how many marbles are there in bag Q? Notice that we have a table. It tells us the number of marbles in each of the 3 bags, bag P, Q, and R, and the percent of marbles in each bag that are blue to the nearest 10th. So 10.8% in bag P, 66.7% in bag Q, and 50% in bag R. And here are our answer choices. This, guys, is going to be a question where we only pick one answer. The GRE does have a mix of questions where you pick only one answer, you could pick multiple answers, or perhaps even a question called a numeric entry question, where you type the answer in. They're all considered problem-solving questions. So, how the hell would we do this? Well, the official explanation is to do this. That's what I like to call the work hard way. It's the theory way, essentially. Okay? That looks really difficult, because it is. It's very difficult. And this is considered a very hard question. A very hard question. And guys, doing this, that's for experts only. I would not go near that at all. So we need a better way of answering this. Well, we can. Let's just create an extra column in our table here for a second. Hopefully this will help us. And we're going to make that the number of blue marbles. We can already easily figure out the number of blue marbles in most of these. You might get a little bit worried about 10.8% of 37. But guys, can you have a non-integer number of marbles? Can I have half a marble? No, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense at all. This is a little bit more than 10%, and 10% of 37 is 3.7. So what's the nearest integer that's a bit more than 3.7? 4. It must be 4. There must be 4 marbles in this bag, in bag P. With bag Q, well, it's going to be 2/3 of whatever X is. 2/3. And then in bag R, it's just half of 32. So that's going to be 16. Okay, this is already looking interesting. So the work smart way, okay? So what do we actually know about the number of marbles in bag Q? Let's think about this for a second. What do we know? I know that 2/3 of them are blue. And again, we cannot have half a marble or a fraction of a marble. So what does that tell me about the total number of marbles? I must be able to third it. I must be. I must be able to multiply it by 2/3. That means the correct answer must be divisible by 3. Well, that gets rid of some answer choices, doesn't it? The correct answer must be divisible by 3. Otherwise, I'd end up with a non-integer over here. Now, how many answer choices are left? Just 2. But how many do I need to try in order to find the right answer? It's just 1. Pick an answer. It doesn't matter which one. Use it, see if you can find the actual answer. We're going to use answer choice C here. For no particular reason. You could use either of them. But let's throw in 12. Remember, that is what it's asking us. Okay. How many marbles are in bag Q? Well, if 12 marbles are in bag Q, then that means 2/3 of 12, 8 marbles are blue. And from that, you can easily figure out the total number of total marbles and the total number of blue marbles. Well, 37 plus 12 plus 32 is 81. And then 4 plus 8 plus 16 is 28. Is 28 exactly 1/3 of 81? No. No, it's not. Exactly 1/3 of 81 is 27. And you can just type that into the calculator. 81 divided by 3 is 27. 28 is not exactly that. So 12 doesn't work. That means the answer has to be B. 9. You also could have think of it like this. This is going to be some odd number. This is going to be some even number. Again, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. But how much algebra did we actually do here? Not much. And what's the chance of making a mistake if I do it this way? Not very high. What approach would you enjoy more? I know enjoy is a little bit of a generous term here, but yeah, this way is not so bad, right? It's not so bad. And what do you think a successful academic would do? Would they plow through all of the calculations themselves? Probably not. You don't want to work hard, guys. You want to work smart. That is what we want to do here. Okay? Remember, guys, this is a very hard question. A very hard question. But this is what problem-solving questions look like. I'm sure you guys already know what problem-solving questions are like. But this gives you an idea that despite the fact that you're familiar with the questions, there's still some new things to learn here. It's not about being a human calculator, because you've got a calculator. It's about understanding the questions. It's about thinking about different strategies and understanding math. I want to take you through a new question type, though. The quantitative comparison question. In this, you're going to get a scenario. Here's our scenario. It says, at a certain clothing store, customers who buy 2 shirts pay the regular price for the first shirt and a discounted price for the second shirt. The store makes the same profit from the sale of 2 shirts that it makes from the sale of 1 shirt at the regular price. You're then given 2 quantities. Quantity A, in this case, the cost of the store of 1 shirt, and quantity B, the sale price of the second shirt the customer purchases. And then you're going to have 4 answer choices. Answer choice A is always going to be quantity A is greater. Answer choice B is always going to be quantity B is greater. Answer choice C is always going to be the 2 quantities are equal. And answer choice D is always going to be the relationship cannot be determined. You don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, you should know what these answer choices say. You should never have to read them ever again because they are always the same. Okay, they are always the same. So let's just, get rid of them. So how would we actually answer this? Well, guys, the official explanation is this. Let R dollars be the regular price for the first shirt the customer buys, and let D dollars be the discounted price of the second shirt that customer buys. Also, let P1 dollars be the profit made by the store selling the first shirt, and for R dollars, and let P2 dollars be the profit made by the store from selling the second shirt. For D dollars, it's given that P1 plus P2 is equal to P1, so P2 is 0. Therefore, the cost of the store of the second shirt is D dollars. The quantities are equal. Now, guys, if you did not actually understand all of that and how we got all of that, don't worry, I probably wouldn't either. That's not how we should be answering a question like this. Here's what you want to think. First of all, the store is making no profit on the sale of the second shirt. If they're making no profit on the sale of the second shirt, that means the second shirt is sold at cost. So they're equal. The answer is C. The 2 quantities equal. 30 seconds. Bam, done. That's it. You don't want to always be pulling out some dang math formula. Often doing so is going to end up hurting you, especially your time. Especially your time. All right, guys, I think that is enough discussion about the quantitative section. Let's talk about the verbal section. And guys, I am interested in why you think GRE verbal is hard. Throw it up into the chat or the Q&A. I want to hear what you guys have to say about GRE vocabulary and about GRE verbal, rather, in general. What is so dang tough about it? Yeah, time. Time, of course, is always going to be an issue on the GRE. Always going to be an issue. Thank you for sharing that. My vocabulary sucks. Yeah. You're not the only one. You're not the only one who thinks that about themselves. Seems a bit subjective. Okay, it's not entirely true, but okay, I can understand why it definitely seems that way. Sure. Boring. Oh, fair enough. Yeah, I can't really argue with that. I can't really argue with that. It certainly looks very boring, doesn't it? Certainly looks very boring. Okay, English is not my native language. All right, sure, fair enough. Guys, these are all great reasons why the verbal section is hard. But I do want to point out that subjective one because I think it's a major misconception. There's really nothing subjective here about GRE verbal. It might seem kind of crazy to say this, but the correct answer to any GRE verbal question will be as black and white as it would be for a math question. I know it doesn't seem like that, but I promise you that is true. Okay? If it doesn't seem that way, then that tells me that you're not understanding fully what the answer is asking you, so the question is asking you to do. And that's fair enough. We often only understand certain questions in a rather vague way. Like, what does it mean to infer? What does it mean to imply or strengthen? We have a vague idea of what these mean, but the GRE is very particular about what these things mean. And it's important to understand exactly what it thinks these things mean, because that's what it's asking you to do. That's what it's asking. Okay, so let's start by talking about vocabulary. There are actually two GRE question types testing your vocabulary, and they collectively make up roughly half the questions on the two verbal sections. These question types are, of course, sentence equivalence questions and text completion questions. Sentence equivalence questions are asking you essentially what words are equivalent, and text completion questions ask you what words would complete the sentence. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to just get the elephant in the room out of the way. Let's just get it out of the way straight away. Okay? It's an uncomfortable truth. There is no way of getting around the fact that you need an expansive vocabulary to answer these questions. There's no way to get around that. You have to. Now, guys, there's certainly ways to guess the meaning of a word, but it's not going to be enough to find success on the GRE. It's certainly useful, but being able to do that is more like a plan B rather than a plan A, right? You need to have that expansive vocabulary. And if your vocabulary is currently not large enough, well, you need to enlarge it, and you need to enlarge it quickly. Now, how do you do that? What is the best way to learn vocabulary, especially this kind of academic vocabulary that the GRE requires of you? And guys, the best way, bar none, to learn vocabulary is to read more. Yeah, read. Read a book. I know I sound like your grandpa right now or something. Read a book, damn it. But it's true. But it's not just any book here, guys. Not just any book will do. You need to read books that are using the kind of GRE vocabulary that we're trying to learn. Learning them in context, getting used to hearing them and seeing them being used properly. That's how you do that. That is by far the best way to do that. My personal recommendations, if you want to improve your GRE vocabulary? Well, the first book I would pick up if I were you is the book Sapiens by Yuval Harari. I think it is an excellent book. It's actually quite interesting. Talks about the history of humankind. There's a lot of cool things in this book, and it does use a lot of GRE vocabulary, though in a very easy and approachable way. If you want to go a step up from that, because Sapiens by itself is probably not going to be enough, you need a bit more than that, something that's a bit tougher to read, but still easier, than perhaps something like A Demon-Haunted World by Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan is one of the best science writers that has ever lived, and doing this particular book reading it is absolutely fantastic to learn a lot of these more technical terms, a lot of these more high vocabulary and academic terms. There's some scientific terms in there as well. We don't really need to know those, but Carl Sagan does use a lot of academic vocabulary as well. It's a little bit harder to read, but also just as interesting. And the huge plus, of course, if you know Carl Sagan, if you know who Carl Sagan was, then when you read this book, you can't help but hear his wonderful voice in your head. So guys, if you know Carl Sagan, it is an absolutely wonderful book to read. Love Carl Sagan and his voice. Absolutely fantastic. But if you really want to be an expert at this, if you want to absolutely nail vocabulary and whack it out of the park, then you need something a little bit tougher than good old Carl Sagan. And brace yourselves here. The book that I would recommend for that is something like The Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire, The History of the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. There we go. The History of the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire by Edward Gibbon. This is a tough book to read. Again, still very interesting and perhaps it's pretty relevant. It's still pretty relevant, I think, to this day. A lot of people think it's not relevant. I think it kind of is. It certainly can be. Like I said, guys, these books use many GRE words. You get used to reading them in context. They're also just really interesting reads. This is the best way to build up your vocabulary. The best way. You can get all of these on Amazon. They're not hugely expensive. And just start reading them. Read a few chapters every night. You are going to start using these GRE words in context. It's a great way to learn them. But of course, you probably want to do more than that. So what else should you do? Well, you can also use a GRE vocabulary flashcard app. There's plenty of good ones out there. Just go into the App Store, search for GRE vocabulary flashcard app, and check the ratings. I'm sure you'll find there's a bunch of them out there that are pretty good. Okay? It's pretty hard to make a bad one. So definitely have a look at those. And also, I'd recommend you keep a log of the vocabulary mistakes that you make and revise it frequently to learn from those mistakes. So essentially, if you do not identify a word correctly, if you mix up the definition of a particular word, write the word down in your log along with its definition and revise that log frequently so you can learn to not make that mistake again. Now, guys, a lot of people are going to take a look at those three things that I've just told you: reading more, vocabulary flashcard app, keeping a log. And they'll think, I'll do that one. Not if you want to do well in GRE vocabulary questions. Guys, if you want to do well, you should do all three of them. All three. Read those books that I just recommended, get a GRE vocabulary flashcard app, and keep a log. Do all three of those. Unless you already have a particularly expansive vocabulary, which, good for you, I'd recommend you do all three of those. That way you can make sure that you are going to improve. You can see them in context in the books. You can constantly repeat them in the flashcard apps, and anything that you're still getting wrong can just be shoved into the log. Okay? Be shoved into the log. That's how you do it. There's no miracle here. That's how you do it. Those are the best ways to do it. And I recommend you do all three of them. In particular, of course, reading the books. I've found that that is always the most helpful thing for most people to do. Now, let's actually talk about the question types. There are two of them. The first one we mentioned was sentence equivalence questions. In sentence equivalence questions, you must select the two answer choices that give the sentence the equivalent meaning. And there's always going to be 6 choices to select from. So your goal is to select the two answers that give you the equivalent meaning. Let's see what that looks like. Here's a question. Here's a sentence equivalence GRE question. It says, despite all its blank, a stint in the diplomatic corps is invariably an uplifting experience. And you've got answer choices. A says merits, B says compensation, C effectiveness, D rigors, E mediocrity, and F hardships. Let me throw up a poll and let's see what you guys think the correct answer to this one is. Remember, select two answers and only two. Yeah, keep those answers coming in, guys. Keep those answers coming in. Don't look it up on dictionary.com, okay? Don't look up the answers on or the definitions on dictionary.com. Just think about it. Still got a few of you that we're waiting for. Okay. Okay. Not so bad. Not so bad. I think most of you got at least one of them correct, but you need to get both of them correct if you're going to get the question correct. You have to get both answers correct. And that's true of any multiple answer thing, guys. You have to get all the answers right. So, work hard way is to just know the definitions. Well, guys, merits means intrinsic qualities or virtues. Compensation is something given or received as an equivalence for services or debt, etc. Effectiveness is the fact or quality of producing the intended or desired result. Rigors is severe or harsh acts, circumstances, etc. Mediocrity is the state or quality of being mediocre, which means kind of meh. And hardships, conditions that are difficult to endure. Okay. Now, guys, you may notice that, first of all, these are just the definitions actually from dictionary.com. I totally lifted it from there. But knowing the definitions isn't just going to be enough, because none of these are the same. But if you do know all of the definitions of all of these, and that's a bit of an if, I'm not sure everybody will, but if you do know, yeah, okay, D and F will be the closest here. And so we should go with those two. And yeah, you can do that in about 2 minutes. You don't have 2 minutes, though. You don't have 2 minutes. Especially not with sentence equivalence. You want to do sentence equivalence questions quickly if you can. And so we need a work smart way. The work smart way involves using the sentence itself. Look, guys, it starts with the word despite. The word despite is showing a contrast. Well, what am I contrasting with? Despite something, a stint in the diplomatic corps is invariably an uplifting experience. So I need to contrast it with an uplifting experience. So despite this, it's an uplifting experience. What would contrast with uplifting experience? Well, something making it sound bad, right? Something that makes it sound bad, that the job is not good. Well, look at your answer choices, guys. That immediately eliminates A, B, and C. Let's just get rid of those. that only leaves D, E, and F. And guys, clearly E is the odd one out of these three. Mediocrity is not the same thing as hardships, and rigors is kind of like hardships. So yeah, the others must be right. It must be D and E. And that should take you less than a minute. That's what a sentence equivalence question is like. You should use the sentence itself to give you clues as to what this here should be. And then basically eliminate anything that doesn't make sense and select the ones that do make sense. Okay. Text completion questions are the other question type on GRE verbal. And then text completion questions are the other question type with vocabulary on GRE verbal. These you must select. Ooh, this is wrong. Okay. Let me just ditch that. Okay. You must essentially select the correct answer for each blank. You must select the correct answer for each blank. Now notice that in this text completion GRE question, we are given a sentence. The sentence in this case has 2 blanks in it. We have 3 answer choices per blank. It is our job to figure out which blank goes into which one of these. Okay. Well, again, the work hard way. Let's go through each one of those. Celebrate is to observe a day or to commemorate an event with ceremonies or festivities. Amend is to alter, modify, rephrase, or add to or subtract from. Protest is an expression or declaration of objection, disapproval, or dissent, often in opposition to something a person is powerless to prevent or avoid. Overcrowding is a state of being filled with more people or things than is desirable, like congestion. Bathos, there's a wonderful word for you. Insincere pathos, sentimentality or mawkishness. I'm imagining that's probably not helping you figure out what the hell bathos means. Duplicity, deceitfulness in speech, conduct as by speaking or acting in 2 different ways to different people concerning the same matter. Okay, so yeah, you got your definitions here, but which one of them is actually right? Well, guys, again, just knowing the definitions is never going to be enough. And in fact, with something like bathos in particular, is it even necessary? To be perfectly honest, that is not a very common GRE word. You'll notice, guys, that the most complex words that the GRE throws into answer choices are often the ones that are usually wrong. But let's work smart here. Read the frickin' sentence. It says hundreds of citizens showed up to something, the Planning Commission's master plan for regional centers. That could be a bunch of different things. Claiming that adding 800,000 additional people to the metro area by the year 2020 would cause something and gridlock. Well, that second blank has the word and after it. So it's something positively connected to gridlock. It's something positively connected to gridlock. And this is going to be something that comes after adding 800,000 additional people. Adding 800,000 additional people will cause something in gridlock. I mean, guys, it doesn't even matter what bathos and duplicity mean. The answer is clearly D, overcrowding. Adding 800,000 people is going to cause overcrowding and gridlock. That makes perfect sense. It has to be the answer. I don't even need to know what bathos means. And once you know that one, well, would citizens celebrate, amend, or protest potential overcrowding and gridlock? Yeah, they'd protest that. Answer's gotta be C. Easily less than a minute. Easy, less than 1 minute. Okay? For the record, if you still don't understand what bathos means, it basically means like an insincere emotional reaction. Pathos would be a sincere one. And bathos is an insincere emotional reaction, overly emotional reaction. You know, when someone's just bawling their eyes out, but they clearly don't mean it. Yeah, that's considered bathos. And for the record, I only looked that up after answering this question. That's how much I don't really care about it. I didn't know. It's the first time I've seen this word was on this question, and I've never seen it anywhere else. I've seen pathos a few times, but pathos, yeah, no. And I don't need to. Answer has to be D. Guys, you've got to beware here of the common GRE traps. You don't just choose what sounds right or looks right or feels right, because what's really tested here is your attention to detail, your clarity of communication, and your mastery of the process. That's what's really tested here. Okay? All right. That's enough to think about vocabulary. Let's talk about reading comprehension. And guys, do you get super excited about reading comprehension? Probably not. Probably not. I'm imagining reading comprehension makes you feel pretty much like this woman right here. I get it. I get it. Believe me, I do. But part of that just comes from reading boring passages. And guys, you're probably reading them wrong. When you're dealing with reading comprehension, you need to focus on how the author is making his point, not what he or she is saying. The what is not the important part, it's the how. For example, if I'm dealing with a long passage and in paragraph 1, the author begins by explaining someone else's point of view, and then in paragraph 2, the author explains why they think that point of view is wrong. And then in paragraph 3, the author gives their own point of view. Understanding that is 10 times more important than understanding anything about the subject matter. Noticing that it's someone else's point of view, that the author disagrees with it, and then puts forward their own point of view. Understanding that, way more important. Because prior knowledge of the subject matter is not required. So everything you need to know about the subject matter is in front of you. It is there in front of you. Instead, you should place your focus on how the paragraphs of the passage are creating a narrative, the overarching narrative happening in this passage, like I mentioned earlier. So you need to begin reading with a purpose. Here is how you need to read reading comprehension passages. First, start with how is the passage organized? Look at the different paragraphs and understand, why are they there? Why is this paragraph even here? What is it adding to our narrative? Then what's this whole passage about? Think about what the appropriate title would be for this passage. Like, what is it actually about? Then think about the tone or emotion behind the author's words. Is the author neutral? Is this feeling like it's lifted out of a textbook? Is the author being very positive? Is he arguing for something, or potentially being rather critical, arguing against something, or overtly biased? And then use that to figure out what the primary purpose of that passage is. Why did the author write this? Why did the author write this passage? Guys, that is how you succeed at GRE reading comprehension. That's how you do it. But guys, just like with any other thing, it's not about the knowledge. It's about your ability to apply it. Okay, it's about your ability to apply it. So let's take an example of this, right? Here's a GRE reading comprehension question, right? You got a 2-paragraph passage right there, and you have a question associated with it. This passage would probably have 2 questions associated with it, given its length, but it's all right. We'll work with the one that we have. Let's ignore the question for a second, and let's actually read this passage. The passage says schools expect textbooks to be a valuable source of information for students. My research suggests, however, let's pause right there. Just based on that one word that we've just written,
Do you think the author agrees with the idea that textbooks are a valuable source of information for students? Probably not. Probably not, given that we've got a contrast word like however. Probably disagree with it. Okay, so we already have an idea of where this is going. So my research suggests, however, that textbooks that address the place of Native Americans within the history of the United States distort history. Ooh, that's a very emotive thing, a very opinionated thing to say. They distort history. Ooh, that's strong. To suit a particular cultural value system. In some textbooks, for example, so I'm about to get an example of this, where it distorts history. Settlers are pictured as more humane, complex, skillful, and wise than Native Americans. In essence, so here's the concluding part of that, textbooks stereotype and deprecate the numerous Native American cultures while reinforcing the attitudes the European conquest of the New World denotes the superiority of European cultures. Although, here we get another contrast here. So although textbooks evaluate Native American architecture, political systems, and homemaking, I contend, so the author is making their own opinion here, that they do it from an ethnocentric European perspective without recognizing that other perspectives are possible. Okay. So clearly this author is putting forward their own point of view, that these textbooks distort history, and they're doing it from an ethnocentric European perspective. Okay. In the second paragraph, the author starts by saying one argument against my contention. So he's giving us an argument against this. Asserts that by nature, textbooks are culturally biased, and that I'm simply underestimating children's ability to see through these biases. Some researchers even claim that by the time students are in high school, they know they cannot take textbooks literally. Do they? No, I'm not sure of that. Yet, there's another contrasting word, yet, substantial evidence exists to the contrary. Two researchers, for example, so we're going to get some examples of the contrary evidence, have conducted studies that suggest that children's attitude about particular cultures are strongly influenced by the textbooks used in school. Given this, an ongoing careful review of how school textbooks depict Native Americans is certainly warranted. Okay, well, this author is clearly making a case. It's clearly making an argument. They're trying to argue that essentially these textbooks distort history, and you can even see that they give a contrary argument, but they tear it down. What was our question again? Oh yeah, the primary purpose of the passage is to. Well, we just said he's making an argument. Guys, would you start a description of an argument with describing something? No. That's like what a textbook does. Textbooks describe things. This is an argument. Discuss means something similar, so no. Same with summarize. Again, no. Only one answer choice starts with argue. And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, this is the right answer. Argue that textbooks used in schools stereotype Native Americans and influence children's attitudes. Absolutely yes. So if you can recognize that this passage is making an argument, and let's be real here, guys, that shouldn't be that hard to do. If you can do that, then you can get the answer to this question right almost immediately, just by looking at the first word of every answer choice. Is that going to happen on every question? No. But it does illustrate the point that I'm trying to make. It's not about the content, it's about the narrative. The overarching narrative that's happening. Okay. All right. That is enough about the verbal section. I'm sure you guys have lots of questions here, and you want to know, how do I study for the GRE? Well, most people start is with the official books here. Okay. The official books. And they are great books. I think just about everybody studying for the GRE should have them. But one thing that you'll notice about them is they're not very good at teaching you how to do the GRE. They're really mostly just a question bank. So they're probably not enough. Well, the next thing that people will often do if they're studying for the GRE is go, okay, well, why don't I get some books that actually teach me how to do the GRE? Maybe I'll get a whole stack of books that'll do that. Or maybe I'll get the ones that evoke religious connotations, or the Prep Plus, or the one that allows me to crack the GRE. But you'll often find that a lot of people still get really lost when they're studying for the GRE by themselves. It's not really the book's fault. The books are mostly pretty good. It's just how people use them. Like I said, guys, it's not about your ability to know things. It's not your ability to memorize things. It's a skill. Sometimes that makes people think, well, what you need is trial and error, and there's no way around that. That you have to learn trial and error. But guys, this guy here is Edison, okay? He invented something called the light bulb. Now, guys, if you were going to make a light bulb, you're going to make your own light bulb, are you going to have to do what Edison did? Which basically was trial and error millions of times until you get something that actually works? Well, no, because someone's done it before. Edison and many other people have made light bulbs already. And so you can just do what they did and potentially improve on it. Thankfully, somebody did improve on it because that thing's huge. Absolutely huge. And it's the same thing with the GRE. I can give essentially a map to you of your GRE journey. I can show you essentially how to conquer this thing. Okay, because that is essentially my job. That's what I do. That's how I make my living. I help people deal with this test. Okay, I can guide you through the maze. That is what I do. Because as I've mentioned before, this is not about knowledge, it's about skills. And to draw a parallel, if I may, to a skills-based assessment that I'm pretty sure all of you have taken at some point. I'm pretty sure all of you would have done this at some point. Does everybody here know how to drive? I'm sure you do. So guys, where I currently live, which is in the province of Ontario in Canada, this is the driver's handbook. This is the thing that tells you essentially all the things that you need to know to be a good driver. But guys, if I memorize everything in this book, does that make me a good driver? If I absolutely memorize it to the point that no one has ever done before, does that mean I'm ready to win Formula One? Of course not. Of course not. To expect that would be ridiculous. But guys, it's the same thing with the GRE. It's the same thing. Now, you guys already know how to drive, so let's actually use that analogy here to understand the 3 steps to mastering the GRE. And guys, it's the same 3 steps to mastering any skill. It's the same 3. There's no magic pill. You always have to do this. Step 1. Yeah, you do actually need to read that stupid book. It's not enough, but you do need to know it. This is like the theory aspect of it. You need to review the theory. This is something that's a really good thing to do before you come to a GRE class. Review the basic school theory that's tested here. Practice by applying the theory in adaptive online exercises. That is something that we build into our course. We have adaptive online exercises that we use to test your knowledge of just the basic theory tested on the GMAT. But the theory itself is not enough. That comes to step 2. After you wrote your written test for your driver's license, chances are the next thing that you did was you had someone who knew how to drive show you how to drive. In this analogy, ladies and gentlemen, that's me. Okay, I'm your mom teaching you how to drive. Okay, I can show you how to deal with these strategies up front so you don't have to go through trial and error. Imagine if you had to learn to drive through trial and error. That's not safe. That's really not safe. I'm glad we don't do that. Okay. I can show you those best strategies up front. You can try them yourself in a very structured setting, and you can get feedback because everyone's going to make mistakes. Nobody hops in a car and drives off into the sunset, right? For the first time. It's a similar idea with the GRE. But guys, I can explain things until I'm blue in the face, and it's not going to mean a damn if you don't practice. That is what makes a habit. That's what turns stuff that you've learned into a habit that you can apply on test day. So you need to continue mastering the skills that you learned in class and complete practice sets and full-length tests, both through books and in online segments. Okay? That's how you do that. Now, you didn't know that, but we don't know what we don't know. And you've come here because you're going to make some decisions that are going to influence your future and the direction of your whole career. This is your decision, after all, and all I can do is serve you for these 2 hours. Show you the strategies that are going to help you move in the direction that you want to go, and show you some examples from people who've walked this path. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Okay? You got some questions wrong. Well, yeah, the whole test is going to be like that. The test is adaptive, so questions will get harder if you're doing well. You're going to have to learn from it. Learn from the best. Our instructors have on average of 10 years of experience. And of course, they all have very, very high scores on standardized tests that they teach. Okay? Now, can I share with you the program that we have created to help people get these 162 plus scores? Here it is. Okay? Like I said, it is designed for people that want those 162 plus scores. You're going to have 40 hours of classes over 5 weeks. The classes will be small, interactive, live classes. All of your study materials will be included, and you can have free course retakes for a whole year. It also includes 3 personal tutoring sessions because usually everybody gets stuck at some point and needs some help. I often found that most people don't need more than 3, but everybody usually needs at least 1. Okay? And yeah, you get coaching until you are done. We have a fall GRE mastery class coming up very shortly, starting October the 24th. It'll go all the way to November the 23rd, 2022. It'll be Monday, Wednesdays from 6 to 10 p.m. And then we'll have one starting in the winter on January the 9th to February the 15th. Again, Monday, Wednesday, 6 to 10 p.m. Please make sure you book your seat now and get a math and verbal foundations course for free. And you can save $200 on any GRE course before Friday, October the 14th. You can go to abbottmaster.com/GRE to see our special offers and sign up now. Now, guys, I know a lot of people will think, don't worry, I've got loads of time. But guys, this is not really the case. Like, I do a lot of consultation, and I do hear this people saying, but inevitably, you're going to end up with no time. And you're going to end up super stressed out because you'll have deadlines coming up. Best time to start is now. Next best time to start is tomorrow, right? Try and do this as soon as you can. And guys, if you're just doing theory-based learning, remember, average scores there per section are only 150. If you're doing skills-based training, like we do here at Abbott Master, you're going to end up with scores usually averaging around 160. And we've had students say that the program is absolutely amazing. I can give you this particular testimonial right here. I'm so happy that I found your course. You guys really know what you're doing. Nothing like this available in my country. I'm truly grateful that your course is now available online. This is a live online student that we had. It took me 6 months to make a decision to join. My only regret is that I didn't start your course back in September. This is a while ago. I wouldn't have had to wait another year to start my master's. Okay? So guys, like I said, take the next steps now. Our next live GRE class, like I said, is coming up this October. And then we're going to have another one in January. There's another free GRE seminar coming up on Monday, October the 17th. So please do consider joining that. And you can see everything now at abbottmaster.com/GRE. Now, before we finish, because we are almost done, guys, we're almost done. Look at that. I'm going to let you off a little early. Let me answer some frequently asked questions. So question 1, how long will it take me to prepare? Now, guys, it depends. It depends a little bit. If your current score, and I recommend that everybody should take a practice test before starting. It's a requirement in our GRE classes. You'll take a practice test to start. If your score is really far from what you want it to be on test day, it's going to take longer. If it's closer to what you want it to be on test day, it'll take less time. So it depends a lot. It depends a lot. Generally, though, I see most people taking between 2 and 4 months to prepare for the GRE. 2 to 4 months. Again, it depends on a lot of different factors. How many hours per week you're committing, how big of a score jump you need to overcome, et cetera, et cetera. What is the best time to start studying? Well, like I said before, actually the best time to start studying was yesterday. Second best time is now, okay? Earlier the better. Your score lasts for 5 years, so getting it in early is not a hindrance. So I recommend doing it as soon as you can. How long should I study by myself before coming to class? Well, you don't have to study at all before coming to class, but I do recommend giving yourself a week or two if you can, prior to coming to class, just to get those theory exercises done. But guys, if you can't do that and you want to sign up the day before the class starts, that's okay. That is okay. But you are going to have to then do those theory exercises, you know, in between your classes. Okay. What book should I buy? Always recommend everybody get the official guides from ETS. I recommend buying the whole pack, including the quant and verbal books. More questions, the merrier. Who's teaching the class? Well, I'm one of the teachers of the GRE, so you might actually be getting me. We do have some other GRE instructors, so you may be getting one of them, but all of us have high GRE scores in the 99th percentile or higher, and all of us have been teaching standardized tests for many, many years. So guys, you are going to have a great experience with us no matter what. We do have a guarantee, and guys, basically what can happen is that you can come back to any particular class that you like for any reason. There's no ifs, ands, or buts here, guys. If you want to repeat the class, you can for up to 1 year. Okay? You can do that for up to 1 year. For any reason. You don't have to tell us. I've had people come to the class multiple times, I think because they just were looking for something to do during the weeknight. I don't know. But yeah, you can come back anytime. You can come back to the whole course, or you can come back to an individual class if you want to repeat it. Guys, we are here to help. And can I really get a score of 162 or higher? Yeah, you can. It's not going to be easy, but you certainly can. And can I get help with my applications? Again, yes, you can. That is a service that we offer. However, that's probably something that you should talk about after dealing with the GRE. Okay, that is personally not my forte, but we do have plenty of admissions consultants that work for us that can get you help with your applications. So ladies and gentlemen, that is it for our session today. Guys, awesome to have you here. I'm going to stick around and answer your questions, but for the time being, I am going to stop the recording. And if you don't have any questions, have an awesome night, and I will see you around soon.